Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
You sure? It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. So a lot's been going on here in the past few minutes. We're going to, this is probably going to be an abbreviated morning grind today. Last night I was hanging out with my brother. We played Kings of War yesterday. He invited me over. So we actually played 2 games of Kings of War, and then he grilled chicken and grilled corn as well for dinner. So we did kind of have dinner and a board game last night, but it was, of course, not something that was streamed or filmed or something like that. We were just having a good time playing. I want to do a report on my thoughts of actually playing Kings of War after having done those 2. We did 2 500-point battles, and I have thoughts on the rule systems. I took some notes and things like that. And I want to do that, except for at the moment, I am not ready to be on camera. So that's why I'm audio only this morning. And I was about to, I was supposed to be out someplace else for lunch today, but those plans just got canceled just a few minutes before I was live. But I've got some other things I have to do today. So I'm only going to be going for a little while today. And then I've got to actually get dressed and things like that. Take a shower, and then I've got to run a bunch of errands. So let's we're going to be looking at so what we'll do is we'll just go audio only and take a look at some of GURPS space today. I think we're actually going to be able to get into the crunchy parts of world design today. So since this is a shortened day, we may take a couple of days on this, but I'm also really excited about then going into GURPS spacecraft and doing some sample spacecraft design. I was thinking about that when people were saying, and I agree with it, that it does seem like this book, gives a very good overview of the world building and the kinds of things to think about if you're running a space campaign in GURPS or any type of RPG. But then it seemed to be missing something with the spaceship design. But then there was a GURPS spaceships. But then it was pointed out, I didn't know that there were actually 7 different GURPS spaceships books. So they must have decided, okay, listen, actually designing these spaceships is going to be a huge topic that we're going to need a lot of pages for. So maybe arguably the first GURPS spaceships should have been in this book, but obviously we're not lacking for GURPS spaceship design. Let's see here. Let's see who all is here. Good morning, Lynn. Good morning, Tomocrat and BGD. Stargate Mind is here. Could I review content in July? Maybe. We can see about that. Just get in touch with me. James said, good morning, James and Rogue Thinker. Rogue, thank you very much, Rogue. I hope everybody's day also goes great as well. So, all right. So let's get into this and let's see where we were. But I think we're about to get into the numbers crunching of world building. So according to our table of contents here, we had just been through maneuver drives, star drives. We didn't go all the way through shipboard systems, but it did seem like we just looked at weapons, but it did seem weapons and shields and things like that. But it did seem like this is all the, I don't want to say fluff, all of the explanation for the things that your ship needs, that all of the GURPS rules are in GURPS spaceship here in maneuver drives, starboard systems. So it seems like GURPS spaceships is the rules part of that chapter right there, chapter 2. So technology, adding miracles, technology areas. Okay, we might. Let's just take a. It doesn't look like that's all that long. We'll go over here to technology and see at least what it says, because that actually it sparked some amazing conversations. That's actually has been, even though we haven't been looking at a whole bunch of rules over the past couple of days. These have been some of my favorite conversations that we've had on the morning grind, and we've had some really good ones because of the kinds of conversations that the GURPS book has sparked with its explanations of different types of engines and travel types and things like that. And also learned about some different new sci-fi, or actually some old sci-fi that I had never looked at before that probably should. So that's probably going to be the case here again. So let's go down to page 49 and then get to basic world building. Oh, look, alien anatomy, future and alien civilizations. Oh, there's still a lot here. This is probably going to get real fun. All right, let's go down to 49. Let's just see what it says about this other technology. Sometimes these sidebars are really fun. Let's see. James says, these GURPS books need time to dig into them properly. The last GURPS we did was a week long. Yeah, we did a deep dive into, the mass combat, which we really liked the mass combat. Now, you're talking, the GURPS book that I have been least impressed with so far was what was it called? I forget exactly the name of it. No, domain management. I was less impressed with domain management just because it seemed like something that I would never do. I was really excited to have a domain level GURPS book, because it seemed like it would really go well with the mass combat, because we had just come off of going through the rules cyclopedia and domain level play in Dungeons and Dragons. And we talked about how, oh man, this is nice because 5th edition doesn't really cover this anymore. Or Dungeons and Dragons hasn't covered this in a long time. That rules cyclopedia did in quite some detail, but it really needed to be updated, I thought anyway, and I think a lot of other people did too. But then it had a combat system and a realm management system. But what is that like when it's updated? Well, I really liked the update that GURPS did to the mass combat, but I was less impressed with its realm management. James says, I really enjoy the conversation. I'm not as knowledgeable regarding space flight and sci-fi as others in this chat are. I learned a lot. I have been too. Rogue Thinker says bunnies and burrows. We need to look at that. That needs to be on the list one day. Yeah, James agrees. Oh yeah, we did do domain management. We didn't do it very long. That probably did mass combat take a week or something like that. Domain management we kind of skipped through because we were like, this is. I really wish that it was. I feel like somebody could write that one again, and put it on the level of mass combat. As far as usefulness, there was too much. It seemed like it was too detailed. It was too detailed in a certain way and didn't have enough. It was simultaneously too detailed, and I also thought it didn't have enough crunch. Like you could be real detailed in specifying all of what your realm was like, but like what kind of impact did stuff have? Lynn says, I actually own a copy of Bunnies and Burrows. It's basically generic Watership Down. I've seen that one before. One of a friend, my art teacher, played GURPS a long time ago in school. And he was actually the one that introduced me to GURPS. And he also knew I liked rabbits. And so he let me borrow Bunnies and Burrows at one point. But that's been that long since I've looked at it. Okay, so adding miracles. Let's see here. Let's see. We'd used the term miracles before. This is why I was a bit confused, because I think in the very beginning we talked about what type of miracles you're going to add. Maybe that was just in an introduction or something like that. But it talked about what it was calling a miracle, like faster than light travel, could be one, and that was the one that was most commonly added in. I was thinking faster than light travel really is, but also something that's often very hand waved as well as gravity. We went over several different ways to generate gravity, but I would say that's a big miracle that's often just hand waved in and not thought about in sci-fi. Just bring in the artificial gravity generators, especially in a TV show, where you just have to have people walking around. It'd be too expensive to try to do anything else. So I would say gravity generators are often hand waved in pretty often, as well as the inertial dampeners. If you got faster than light travel, artificial gravity, and inertial dampeners, that's in a lot of stuff. Okay. Science fiction authors rarely assign technological miracles arbitrarily. Each story usually has a coherent set of technological assumptions chosen to support the plot. Some of the more common assumptions are here. So a high industrial setting is one in which advanced technology produces a world much like our own, but more available resources, more useful gadgets, more powerful weapons, and so on. Technological miracles have given human beings better tools, but they haven't significantly changed human nature. This is kind of a lot like Star Trek. So Retrotech, it actually talks about, in some places, it talks about what is Retrotech. One form of high-tech industrial settings uses Retrotech assumptions. Retrotech is characteristic of Golden Age sci-fi, which was written before the society-altering possibilities of certain technologies became obvious. Many of the best stories of the period feature highly advanced physics, but very inferior electronics and no hint of advanced biotechnology or nanotechnology. That's basically Star Trek, especially Star Trek, the original series, right? What did they get right? We got an extreme understanding of physics, so that you can do miraculous physics things like faster than light travel, gravity control, the inertial dampeners, all of that, phasers, transporters. But what type of electronics do they have? and just computer systems in general. Very, very minimal, and almost no hint of advanced biotechnology or nanotechnology at all. This isn't necessarily a bad set of assumptions. It can give rise to a very exciting space opera campaign. Without the realistic crutch of smart computers and advanced cybernetics, adventurers have to rely on their own skills rather than those of their machines. Since Retrotech campaigns are set in the future, they usually involve political change. Present-day nations will have vanished, new cultures and empires will have appeared. However, these changes result from ordinary historical trends, not spectacular social transformations. Exactly. You've got the astrogator the astrogator who works for the slide rule. Basically, yes. And like, or if a computer is working, like it takes time, it's over there crunching, right? Good morning, everybody. Some Retrotech universes involve elaborate future histories tracing out how the societies of the future evolved from those of the present. Retrotech universes often support adventures driven by romance and drama rather than scientific rigor. Classic examples of Retrotech fiction include Poul Anderson's Poul's Technic League and Terran Empire stories, E. Doc Smith's Lensman novels, and even the Star Trek television series. Some more recent science fiction mimics the Retrotech field by using safe tech assumptions. In a safe tech setting, it's possible to develop technologies that drastically alter human nature and replace humans with machines. However, all such technologies are avoided or suppressed, usually through social controls. That sounds more like Star Trek: The Next Generation. This is most often for ethical reasons or because the past wars or disasters that involve technology. Under safe tech assumptions, human society will extend into space, but will probably be more prosperous, but it won't otherwise be very different from the societies of today. Safe tech universes support a space operatic approach and are fairly common in sci-fi. For example, Larry Niven's famous Known Space and Universe is a safe tech setting for most of its future timeline history. You know, I wanted to check. We're on page 50 here. Let's see if they provide a rather comprehensive bibliography. Most of the time, GURPS do, but we've seen a lot of references in here. Ah, yes. The bibliography. So, nonfiction to draw from, fiction to draw from, comedy, crime, and mysteries, hard science fiction that it recommends. So, I was hoping that it categorized it like this. So, if you're looking for all of the references or some kind of story that involves this hard science fiction, here are our references. Military sci-fi, planetary romance and big dumb objects, space operas. So Dune is here, space opera. Films include Aliens, Blade Runner, Star Wars. So it does say, so Star Wars, it says, the original film is now episode 4 in the series, which has provided markedly uneven quality. This is one of the most successful films in history. I thought it was going to tell us more about that world. Firefly. Oh, so I was wondering when this, we'll have to look when this was written. Because here it is, a reference to Firefly. Obviously, no reference like The Mandalorian, but this came out after the Firefly series. A short-lived but superb spaceship drama with clear Old Western inspirations. Okay, so it did categorize some of the stories it had. If you are looking for an easy way to reference sci-fi stories. Okay. High biotech. Dune is serious Retrotech due to the computer uprising. I really should know more about Dune. Thou shalt not make a machine with a man's mind or something like that. I really enjoyed. I know the people who like Dune are really into Dune. It seems like I've got the friends of mine who are into Dune are really into Dune, and I've never gotten to read the books. But I did enjoy the friends who are really into Dune told me to go and watch the last movie that came out, and I did, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, okay, I see what people are talking about now. Probably that's an audiobook I should go through. High biotech. In some sci-fi universes, the most miraculous technologies are those involving medical science and bioengineering. Genetic modifications, tissue engineering, biochemical weapons. So that's transhuman space. The transhuman space setting can be considered a high biotech universe, since miraculous biotechnology is one of the main areas of advance. Other space-oriented stories with high biotech flavor include Bruce Sterling's Shaper Mechanist stories and John Varley's Titan novels. Cybertech. So this is one where computer technology and cybernetics have transformed society. Computers are extremely intelligent and may be self-aware and self-motivated as well. Robots of all shapes and sizes are common. High nanotech. Manipulation at small scales. The biological comparison is apt to living cells and nanotechnological factory. Technology areas. There is also a GURPS biotech book. I've never had or read GURPS biotech. And GURPS Ultratech was published after this book. For 4th edition, anyway. There was a 3rd edition biotech. And Ultratech. Genetic engineering, cloning, miracle medicine. Let's see what it says about suspended animation, because these sidebars are often interesting. Rogue Thinker says, it would be easy to have an all GURPS channel. I should dig out my old Pyramid magazines. I remember loving the Cheese College of Magic. The Cheese College of Magic? You could probably definitely do an all GURPS channel. Suspended animation. Suspended animation is a common science fiction trope. If space travel is very slow, then passengers and crew may sleep the years away, awakening only at their destination. Suspended animation can also be a crude form of time travel, letting characters sleep through the centuries in order to wake up in a far future world. In classic science fiction, suspended animation meant cold sleep, putting the human body into a hibernation state or freezing it solid. Both techniques assume there's a way to revive the subject at the destination. Quite a challenge if the freezing method is used. In any case, for journeys lasting years or longer, the technique doesn't actually work all that well. It's impossible to prevent all random chemical change, even in the frozen body, and the background radiation of deep space will still harm a frozen passenger. More recent science fiction assumes that advanced nanotechnology can be used to keep a hibernating passenger in good repair. Nanotech symbionts repair damage to radiation, flush away cells that die due to random chemical change, and so on. With nanostasis, the body need not even be kept all that cold, saving on heavy cryogenic equipment or cryonic equipment. Some recent science fiction suggests a third approach. If uploading is possible, then a passenger won't need to take his body on the trip at all. He can travel as data in storage, either unaware of the passage of time or enjoying a virtual environment. It can be downloaded into a new robot body at the far end, or if nanotechnology is sufficiently advanced, his own body can be reassembled from stored information. No matter what the method, suspended animation can solve a number of plot problems for the space-oriented GM. If interstellar travel takes a long time, don't bother playing out the years between stars. Just pop the adventurers into cold sleep and skip to the destination. Meanwhile, suspended animation may provide adventurers with an escape hatch if things go badly wrong. Good morning, 7x7. Greetings. Right, or transport buffer pattern, suspended animation, yes. Bioship says, there's nothing preventing someone from building a bioship. from flying through space. A bio building. There's nothing preventing a bio building from flying through space, at which time it becomes a bioship, a living spaceship. Bioships, we sometimes see those in Star Trek. I remember The Next Generation, I think. Bioships can be built from scratch using tissue engineering techniques. Alternatively, a large alien life form or big terrestrial creature can be subjected to extensive genetic and biomechanical engineering. A bioship is primarily living matter, of course, and it can have inorganic systems grafted into it. The original creature should be large enough to begin with and tough enough to withstand large shift in atmospheric pressure. It can be adapted to life in the vacuum or cold of space. It can be made much larger in a zero gravity environment. Some possibilities include atmospheric dwellers, floating creatures native to the atmosphere of a large planet or gas giant. Giant trees or tree-like organisms engineered to withstand deep space conditions and grow to enormous size, possibly feeding from water and nutrients in comets. Oh, that would be cool. A giant tree or tree-like organisms. I was thinking about the tree in Xanadu. You go up into the tree in Xanadu, that NES game that's one of my favorites, and you're fighting your way through the tree. What if you had a giant tree like that in space, engineered to withstand deep space conditions and grow to enormous size? Marine dwellers, large creatures native to the ocean depths, such as whales, or for a different approach, coral reefs. Such creatures can already grow to great size and are well adapted to pressure extremes. But surely you can't just still take a whale and throw it out in space. You're going to need to do some bioengineering on that, right? Or graft on some inorganic systems. Space dwellers. It's possible that large living creatures already exist in deep space and require little to no adaptation to serve as bioships. BSG used bioships. B5 Vorlon ships and Maya from Farscape are good examples. From canoes to starships, trees have been providing transportation for millennia. Yes, yeah. In fact, I played that game on stream. There's a stream here, and on this channel when we did Plugged In. If you look up Plugged In or just look up Xanadu on this channel, I did two. It was 2 streams. I beat the game on stream. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoy that game. I've said that it should be what. It should have been what Zelda is. It could have been what Zelda is today, as far as the brand goes. It could have been. It could have been. The transparent society. One drawback of ubiquitous computing is that it makes privacy almost impossible to obtain. We may find it very convenient to access all kinds of information about the world around us, but the other side of the coin is that other people will find it very easy to gather information about us. This failure of privacy may offer some social benefits. The science fiction writer David Brin has speculated about the transparent society. This is a society in which even powerful people, such as corporate or government leaders, can't keep any secrets for very long. Every citizen can be fully informed about the activities of his government or the corporations in which he does business. It's therefore easy, at least in theory, to demand accountability for any abuse of power. Hey, let's this is page 56. When was this book published? This book came out in well, I hope, where's the date? Oh, GURPS space is copyright. Okay, so this is several different versions right here. So this is 2006. So this is a 2006 book. Just thinking about that in terms of what's been going on in computers and the internet. Because it still seems like access to information is rather asymmetric. we can access a bunch of things, but citizens we still can't access a whole bunch about the government. We've got some ways to do that. Some things have been put up online, but I guess we're far from from Bren's transparent society. It's therefore easy in theory to demand accountability for any abuse of power. On the other hand, ubiquitous computing may lead to ubiquitous law enforcement. A government that controls the data network can monitor the activities of every item and every person in it. It may become impossible to break even minor laws without immediately being detected and targeted for correction. Private entities may also be a concern. A company could monitor even the smallest activities of its employees, and malicious users could use the system to track and harass their enemies. Boy, people would say that's the one that we're headed toward. Some people would. In short, a society that uses ubiquitous computing may be highly oppressive, or it could have developed social mechanisms for dealing with the loss of privacy. GMs who are interested in miracles and miraculous communications and computer technology may wish to explore the implications of a world where information really is free. The Tin Man, that's who I was thinking of. That's what I was thinking of when I was thinking about a Star Trek ship from TNG. Good morning, PH. Yeah, 2006. It is. It is. Things are changing so fast, especially when you're talking about something like this. Computers and space. I've actually, like I said, I don't have Ultratech in physical copy. I might have Ultratech here in PDF format, but I was kind of interested in what's going on with Ultratech in light of whenever it was published. It was probably published, I don't know, maybe that's like 2007 or something like that, about the changes in technology and what it's gotten right and what it's gotten wrong. That one might be a fun one to do, taking a look at Ultratech and taking a look at the GURPS tech levels and what we're supposed to have and what we're not supposed to have, or what we've got that they didn't anticipate in especially even that short amount of time. Artificial minds. Nanotechnology, smart materials. Swarms and goo. Of course, assemblers that can build other things can also be designed to build copies of themselves. This isn't an unusual notion. A living cell is itself a self-replicating assembler. Such assemblers can cut through many of the limitations of nanotechnology. In particular, they make the supply of assemblers cheap and easy to replenish. They can be even more effective than non-replicating assemblers in bringing about a post-scarcity society. On the other hand, self-replicating assemblers can be harder to control. If they escape into the environment, they may begin to replicate using whatever materials they can find. A mass of self-replicating assemblers is sometimes called goo. Futurists and sci-fi writers sometimes refer to goo as beings of different colors, depending on its nature and purpose. Not everyone agrees on the color terminology, but some examples are as follows. White goo. Well-behaved assemblers in controlled environments producing useful items as designed. Golden goo. A mass of assemblers designed to gather atoms together or molecules of valuable substance such as gold, used in mining or similar applications. Red goo, a controlled mass of assemblers used as a weapon, probably by military organizations or by terrorists. As I say, gray goo. Okay, gray goo. So green goo, blue goo, assemblers designed to hunt down and destroy hostile assemblers, such as red goo, without otherwise affecting people or property. Green goo, assemblers used to monitor and support a community of living things. Green goo can be used in architecture and the preservation of wild ecosystems or even the maintenance of human health. Whereas gray goo is the one I hear about the most. So gray goo or black goo, an uncontrolled mass of wild assemblers devouring everything in its path and turning the material into more assemblers. Gray or black goo is the ultimate terrorist weapon or the ultimate industrial disaster. A massive gray or black goo could destroy the entire surface of a planet. Some wits also refer to pink goo, by which they mean human beings. After all, humans reproduce relatively slowly, but given enough time, they tend to fill up available space and devour everything they can find. Well, maybe, but right now we're actually seeing population decline. Especially not planet-wide, but a reduction in birth rates that goes below a replacement level. Speaking of analyzing things in the context of when they're happening, I thought that it would be fun one time to take a look at Kurzweil's Singularity is Near. It's been a long time since I've read Kurzweil's The Singularity is Near. It came out, I don't know if I read it when it came out or not, but it's been many years since I read it. And he's supposed to have another book coming out. I don't know if we do that as part of the morning grind or not. I had another channel I was experimenting with where I covered technology stuff, and I only put a few videos on it before I realized I need that time to be doing some other things. But it would be interesting to go through The Singularity is Near before that new book comes out. Rogue says, I had a campaign where the characters were trying to stop a gray goo explosion. They failed and the planet died. James says, yeah, several countries are now below replacement population. And I don't know how they pull out of that. Like, I don't know how you pull out of that. It seems, right now, it's seeming inevitable, but I really don't know how you pull out of population decline. Especially when you're as low as the fertility rates are as low as in some places. I really don't know how you pull out of that. Power generation. One of the most important factors controlling any society is its ability to generate and apply energy. A society with access to cheap or unlimited energy is by definition wealthy, while one experiencing energy shortages is impoverished no matter what other resources are at hand. The technical details of power generation are rarely important to the story. The GM can assume solar, geothermal, fossil fuel, nuclear, antimatter, or total conversion power is needed. Of course, how power is generated is almost less important than how it is stored and distributed. The small gadgets beloved of adventurers need power to do vehicles, as do vehicles, buildings, and spaceships. Unless a power generator is cheap and compact enough to carry around, energy will have to be stored, or devices will need to be connected to a remote power source. Some forms of power plant technology will be dangerous if mishandled. Nuclear fission generates radioactive waste. Some types of fusion power generates radiation in the form of fast neutrons. Antimatter power storage can be extremely destructive if containment fails. In general, the higher the energy density of the power technology, the more likely it is to be dangerous and destructive side effects. The details of power technology is usually deep background, not important to the story. The GM should decide how much energy is necessary to support the society and the gadgets he wants to include. Any disadvantages attached to technology can be developed as potential plot complications. After all, miraculous technology is a wonderful thing until the power goes out. The swashbuckler option. Good morning, George. There's a word for how to repopulate a country. A whole lot of, well, you get it. Immigration and promotion of fertility propaganda, along with some cases of human trafficking. That's generally how you pull out. I don't think the encouragement of fertility hasn't really been working. James says, I think you need to encourage immigration to really overcome the issue, but I'm no expert. But ultimately, I mean, if we all go below replacement, I mean, you can't bring in people from across the planet. I mean, in local from another planet or something like that. In certain countries, yeah, you can have immigration that can bring your population up, but only until that your source country starts to go negative. Tomocrat says, side note on the Titanic story. A nearby Titanic museum added a wreath next to the list of people that died on the ship. You're talking about... Many a swords and spaceships epic has assumed that skill with a melee weapon, usually a sword or something similar, is important to an adventurer's life. This can be a fun assumption, but the GM who wants to apply it we'll need to determine how melee weapons can hold their own in a universe full of ultra-tech firearms. One approach to this problem is to assume that social factors encourage the use of melee weapons. Perhaps government forbids private ownership of advanced weaponry but doesn't restrict knives and swords. Or perhaps one social class cultivates swordsmanship as a usually non-lethal way to resolve disputes. An alien race that values ancient traditions may maintain its traditional weaponry for use away from the battlefield. Another approach is to assume that advanced melee weapons can somehow hold their own against firearms. This can be accomplished by making the melee weapons more powerful or by weakening the ranged weapons. For instance, in the Star Wars universe, ordinary adventurers routinely use high-tech blaster weapons. However, the Jedi Knights and their foes use lightsabers and psionic powers to deflect blaster fire. They have little need to fear from sidearms and can use their melee weapons when fighting one another. In Frank Herbert's Dune, personal shield technology is common, producing an archaic feel in weapons and tactics. The shield automatically deflects fast-moving projectiles. If a las gun or similar beam weapon contacts the shield, the result is an explosion equivalent to that of a nuclear warhead. If a las gun or similar beam weapon contacts the shield, the result is an explosion equivalent to that of a nuclear warhead. As a result, projectile firearms are rarely used, and most people actively avoid using beam weapons. Meanwhile, a slow-moving blade weapon can penetrate the shield, so most soldiers are expert with knives and or short blades. Well, I didn't know that. In Dune, the shields are so good that if you... I thought it would just deflect. I guess they were using slug throwers. So if you shoot a bullet at the shield in Dune, then it deflects it, but don't hit it with a beam weapon. But you can get through it with a blade. Weapons and defenses. One thing is certain, people in the future will still be fighting one another on a regular basis. Weapon technology has led to other fields, such as governments to invest and develop in new defensive systems. Melee weapons. Melee weapons will still be useful in the far future, at least under certain circumstances. Knives, swords, and similar weapons can be made using ultra-tech material, making them difficult or blunt to break. Nanotechnology can making them difficult to blunt or break. Nanotechnology can produce monowire, a strand of wire 1 molecule thick. Tough and almost infinitely sharp, monowire could be used as a weapon in its own right, or it could be used to provide an edge for a more typical bladed weapon. Of course, some space opera universes have force swords and similar super science melee weapons. For a swords and spaceships field, permit personal force fields that stop fast missiles or energy blasts, but which permit the slow intrusion of a melee weapon. Slug throwers and ray guns. In the future, as today, one of the best ways to poke holes in someone may be to throw bullets at them. Some military sci-fi assumes that slug throwers will remain the main arm of battle indefinitely. This isn't a bad assumption given the limitations of energy weapons. See below. Chemical slug throwers are likely to continue to advance, bringing more efficient propellant. Starting to see that already. Able to recognize a target and change trajectory in mid-flight. At least if not in sidearms, at least artillery shells are starting to do that. With high-density power sources, projectile weapons can use magnetic acceleration such as chemical propellants. Such a Gauss weapon may be very, very, very small, very fast projectiles. Such Gauss weapons can use very small, very fast projectiles. Energy beam weapons, ray guns, are a staple in science fiction stories. They can include lasers, particle beam weapons, or blasters, plasma bolts, and disruptors that work on unspecified physical principles. Non-lethal weapons which inflict pain or stunning damage but no lasting harm are another possibility. Of course, personal beam weapons should probably be considered a miracle and are unlikely under rigorous assumptions. An energy weapon capable of doing extreme damage or operating at long range will need a lot of power, and the waste energy at the source might turn the weapon red hot. The GM may wish to limit the more powerful energy weapons to heavy support or shipboard applications, with personal sidearms still using the projectile principle. With advances in science, and especially in superscience, weapons may be based on principles not used today. Nanotech may provide red goo disassemblers that will dissolve an enemy into its component molecules. Working psionics may lead to weapons that attack someone's mind directly. In fact, most every technology can be turned into some destructive use. Armor and force fields. Throughout history, there has been an arms race between the designers of weapons and the designers of defenses. Indeed, even present-day military and weapons personnel with military weapons are capable of ending human life with great efficiency. There will be little point in developing miraculous future weapons unless they need to punch through equally improved defense systems. Okay. Now, see, this is a great point, too. Projectile weapons aren't a great idea inside of a pressurized hull. Boarders would then use melee weapons. I was thinking about that shooting guns inside a submarine, too. I was thinking about that, well, because of the Titanic sub situation, but then also when I was watching Hunt for Red October, that you probably also do not want to be shooting a gun inside of a submarine. I'm surprised they didn't talk about that. Baseball bats, Steel Mongoose says. Several people here have, but I have not yet. I keep being told to watch that one. It's another one I've got to do that. James says, I was just told the reason for the disuse of beam weapons in Dune is because they interact with kinetic shields in such a way as to produce a nuclear detonation. Yeah, Hunt for Red October. A guy started shooting with a pistol in that, and I was like, oh, man, that seems like a way to compromise hull integrity. So that's what it said up here. I'm going to have to watch that. Now, I really need to listen to that. Like, get the audiobook and listen to Dune. Because I didn't pick up on at least in the movie, did that continue? They weren't using any type of beam weapon because they're shields. That would be ridiculous to use around your shields. The Expanse. We got another vote for The Expanse here. Okay. I was saying at the top of this that this was going to be an abbreviated show today because I have got some things I've got to go and do. And I was out late last night because I was playing Kings of War with my brother. So maybe Kings of War report tomorrow. I've got things I've got to go to do. So this was perfect though, because it was abbreviated and this got us right to basic world building. So let's, we might even try to do some examples. I wonder what type of world we need to build. But this brings us to basic world building, which we can take a look at. It's probably advanced world building where we saw all of the math. But maybe we could try designing some type of alien world. That seems like fun. Because I want to do, we'll probably do spaceships immediately after this book and design spaceships as well. Yep, I see some equations here. Okay, so I've got to get out of here, but I really appreciate your being here with me this morning. I really appreciate your being here with me this morning. I hope that you have fun. Go play games. Go play games if you can. Go play games. But also be constructive, be creative, or just get work done. I got some yard work I got to do too. So get work done. I will see everybody in the morning. Until then, grind on.